Daredevil Born Again season finale has dropped on Disney Plus. This is my review. If you don't want to be spoiled, check out Daredevil Born Again on the Disney Plus app. Episode 9, Straight to Hell. We're talking about that here today. Episode 8 had a crazy cliffhanger where it looks like Daredevil was going to die, but of course, I'm not buying it because we know the series continues and we know that they're going to figure out a way around it. But going into the episode, I wasn't sure what they were going to do. It's an interesting choice to have that kind of a cliffhanger, but it's also one that I think makes it a bit predictable, but interesting nonetheless. We actually opened the episode showing Vanessa, which was a big revelation in the previous episode, talking to Poindexter. It's a flashback, and we actually see what Matt had discussed before, which is her wanting him to kill Foggy, which is where this whole thing started. He, of course, wound up doing it all the way back in episode 1 of Born Again. So Matt is in the hospital after saving the life of Kingpin and seems to be all beaten up, of course. So a very determined Wilson Fisk wants to initiate his new policy against vigilantes. And if you've been listening to my reviews, you'll know that I was talking about this all the way back in episode 1, where Mayor Fisk is going to be outlawing vigilanteism, which happened in the comics. And so this first season of Born Again is kind of building up to it. Now, what I thought was cool here in the season finales, we did see some returns. Karen returned along with the Punisher, and he had a great scene with Daredevil that, I'll be honest, it felt a little bit shoehorned in. Like, I'm not saying I didn't like it. I love the scene. It was great to see him in there. Brought back memories of season 2 of Daredevil. But it wasn't to me, something they had to do to progress the story. It felt more like, hey, let's do this one for the fans and give them a little tribute to what Daredevil used to be. It felt like that. But I'm not complaining about it. This is not one of those times where fan service is a negative. I actually think it was very well done. And the character of Punisher, played by John Bernthal, continues to be interesting. There seems to be some kind of a romance building up with him and Karen. Interesting to see where that goes, if it goes into his show or not, or his special coming out later this year. So the whole thing kind of reestablishes that Kingpin is still Kingpin, and obviously Matt finds out that Foggy is working on something a lot more serious than he thought, which is why Vanessa put the hit on him. There's a scene in this episode where Wilson Fisk crushes this guy's head, and it's probably the most gruesome scene in the entirety of this series. And I don't just mean Born Again, I'm including the previous Daredevil seasons. The scene where he crushed this dude's head and you see it like sort of pop like a balloon, like his skull fragments. It was a bit over the top, but my God, this was gory. Like, that was unexpected, completely unexpected that they would do that in this episode. It was the police commissioner, because Wilson felt like he had to get him out of the way. So Wilson Fisk goes on TV and institutes his program, which not only is a curfew and bans vigilanteism, but also it institutes a state of martial law in New York City, with the idea being they're going to bring law back and protect you. And it's classic, political gaslighting. What they do is they make you, and you got to look throughout history, this has been an ongoing thing. These people who are in power, and this is kind of the message of Daredevil, one of the messages, they oftentimes will tell you that, okay, we're going to protect you, but we're going to take away your rights. If you look into stuff like the USA Patriot Act, what used to be considered a conspiracy theory, no, the Patriot Act is real. And it's really changed the way that law can sort of be handled. And this has happened multiple times throughout history. This a politician comes around and uses this and threatens your safety just to institute laws that take away your rights. And that's kind of what's going on here. Because if you remember earlier in the episode, people still clamor for vigilantes. They state that vigilantes are in some ways necessary, and most of the New York citizens are okay with vigilantes. They're fine with vigilantes. They want vigilantes. But Mayor Fisk doesn't care what the people want, and never has. It's about his plan. So, yeah, I like that the show is exploring that a bit. It's not the main crux of it. It's really still about the relationship between Matt Murdock and Wilson. That's really what the show is about. But it's still kind of, has layers where you can think a little bit deeper, right? And what's going on here is it's setting up the rest of the show for potential problems for all vigilantes. But they are teasing, even earlier in the episode, they tease that we may have a team coming. And if you've been watching Marvel television, you know what that team is. Will we see that team, though? That's the question. And will we see this team, the Defenders, will we see them in the Avengers movies? Maybe I only speak for myself, but I wanted Defenders to be in Avengers Infinity War and Endgame. Even if it's a smaller role, just helping get innocent people out of the way, something, and they weren't there. And I thought it sucks. And hopefully they can rectify that in the future and we can see some of these characters appear in MCU movies. Daredevil has a monologue to close out the episode, trying to encourage the citizens of New York to rebel. And that's pretty much it. That's pretty much the end of the episode. A little bit uneventful compared to the previous episode, but I didn't hate it. I thought it was effective for what it did, but maybe I did expect a bit more considering that the previous finales for Daredevil have been very grand. The Punisher's been captured, and there is a mid-credit scene that shows him basically teasing his escape. So there will be a lot more to cover when we get to season 2 of Daredevil Born Again. I'm probably going to do a season review later this week, so stay tuned for that. Anyways, those are my thoughts on episode 9, season 1 of Daredevil Born Again. That's going to close out the first season of this new show. And let's see where it goes. Thank you so much, and look forward to that coming in the near future here on the channel. Take care.